This is my latest book out, The Non-Local Mind in a Holographic Universe. It's dedicated to my mentor, Dr. Stanley Krippner. Okay, Maimonides' Dream Labs, his books included Dream Telepathy, other things like that. Chapter 1 is the new directions in mind control. Chapter 2 is the structure of water. The structure of water, Jerry Pollack was my lead in 1970 when I worked in anesthesiology. I left Boeing when Boeing lost the B-1 contract. They shipped me over to anesthesiology. I worked on 4th floor rather than 12th floor. The anesthesiologists were. My tenure in anesthesiology is as a physicist, building the first aortic catheter. That's the single most important measurement in blood. It goes in through the femoral artery, up into the aortic arch, and it measures cardiac output. It has a Doppler transducer at 10 megahertz, and then 28 megahertz crystals, which I grew and made. I did this all in 1 year. I was gifted as an experimental physicist. Whatever I touched worked. I wasn't theoretical, math. I was anything I touched. So it was in 1959, 1960, I think it was, that I did the new meson field theory with Yukawa, who got a Nobel Prize. And I was just a kid writing the math for him. He was Japan. And so I didn't get a nod. I may go to Stockholm this next year because I am currently writing a new field theory that will supersede the holographic universe by 50 years. I am the architect of this, Gabor. I met him in 1967, working for old man DuPont. I was walking in Wilmington down a hall, and I looked in this one open door, and there's a three-dimensional color TV. Where do we have that in our marketplace today? That was in 67. That, like my embryonic holography that would have taken me to Stockholm, they classified that top secret until 93. I wrote that in 73. And two Russians, Garyaev and Popov, quoted from that because I'm suggesting even back in 1973, which is, what, 40 years ago, that the DNA is a resonant cavity oscillator. It's dialoguing with subtle bodies like your gut. The brain is a second gut with neurotransmitters that are dialoguing with subtle bodies outside the physical. And I'll talk about that in chapter 7 called Time Travel and the True Nature of Cavitation. And structured water, Jerry's concept of it was after I was working for him. He came up with that later. At the time, he was just my lead in anesthesiology, and I worked on 4th floor with the boys from Brazil. There was Delgado that had chip implants in rhesus monkeys next to me, and Dr. Moore was doing ketamine and telepathy studies, BZ gas. And so I am written on altered states of consciousness, and will be glad to talk to you about what they are and what they are not, and what drugs are and what drugs are not today as a holographic system. Chapter 3 is the Omega principle and the energy which patterns randomness. Chapter 4 is belief systems and how they can work as a tool. The example that I would normally use in that regard would be physics always starts with an assumed truth. Shortest distance between 2 points, the Earth's round. But if space is curved, I can prove that the Earth is flat. Which one is it? And the correct answer is yes, because our limitation in conceptualizing what space is. Like time, I watch space change from astrology to astronomy, and now it will become cosmobiology and celestial bodies and their geometric relationship to each other, which has nothing to do with distance and measurements of space as we understand it. And we're going to talk about that if you want to talk about a Carrington-like event, because the studies I did with space is that when the planet Uranus and the Earth are in a specific geometric alignment with the Sun, there is a 3 sigma error coefficient. There will be a major Carrington-like event on the Earth. And since that orb has already started, we're in that orb right now. And a 3 sigma. The Stanford Research Institute, my mentor was working in paranormal studies, was Andrea Puharich. And Bill Tiller, both worked under me, even though he was my mentor. I was the one that ran MRU from the West Coast. Bill Franklin, Dr. Wilbur Franklin was out of Kent State. I was back to the Carrington-like event. When the planet Uranus is in this position, I used the 360 and went back through history, almost 4,000 years, and validated that there is a major Carrington-like event. Means life-threatening, human extinction. I can tell you what it'll be on the West Coast. I don't know what the East Coast is going to do. The West Coast will be that volcano off of Crescent City. It's out in the ocean that's active right now. If that goes over a 6.4, the entire shelf from I-5 west is gone. And and Ashland is dead in 4 hours because of a trap. I have tomography in one of the bunkers I manage, and we can see the poison gas that's trapped in Mount McLaughlin. And that will be enough to shake and release that gas. And this is like a little tube right in here between here and South Medford. You'll have 4 hours to evacuate. If you go high ground, you'll be fine. And this will clear probably within 2 weeks. It'll be habitable again. It'll be volcanic gas. That's what I know. That doesn't mean I'm right, but the military, still use me because I'm pretty good at what I do. That doesn't mean I get it right any time at all, but I know I don't know. Now, that orb with Uranus is a 5-year orb. Thank you for that. And that's why they did the Parker dive this last winter into the heliosphere to determine the actual precision of like the phase of the moon setting off things in astrology. It is the solar minimums and the solar maximums that set off the event. And as near as we can figure, with a 1 sigma, which isn't very significant, we're suggesting late March, early April of 2024. Which means it's a good time now for you to start thinking about how you put your water together and things like that. And that will be workbook 2. Can you live off the grid for 30 days? And I run down every single basic that you need to do. This is what Matt Stein and I used to do. Structured water. The structure of water is that water has all kinds. I'm going to be lecturing on structured water with a bunch of Russians on the DNA and the new field theory I'm writing Thursday morning at 9 a.m. and the password to Zoom to get on the link, and the password is there on my website on the home page if you'd like to attend. It'll be probably about a 30 to 40 minute period, and there'll be some Russians talking about structured water and other things that we're doing regarding the DNA and leading to a new field theory I'm writing that will supersede my holographic universe by 50 years. I did this in '72. And today I'm writing on the multiverse using a form of Kaufman's knot theory. And I'm doing it with several Russians that we're quoting from a paper I wrote in 1973, Embryonic Holography. So, and you can find those papers on academia.edu if you'd like to read about them. I'm getting about 20 hits a day now from all the scientists. I'm old and I smell bad, but I'm still standing. And I outlive everything. That's because I have a TARDIS.
What's the website that we can
Well, what's that, Mom?
What's your website that we can listen
RichardAllenMiller.com, A-L-A-N. RichardAllenMiller.com.
And what's the Zoom password?
I'm sorry?
The Zoom password for the lecture?
It's listed, it'll be DNA to get into the DNA. Simple. It's open to the public. You're public. If you'd like to hear me on structured water, I'm going to be doing one chapter each week, a 2-hour YouTube on it. The next one is The World of Synchronicity, where nothing happens by chance. Chapter 6 is Fullerene water, where I tell you exactly what happened with Building 7. I have the patent picture in here. It is a neutron fullerene fusion bomb. Basically, Lockheed had the teleportation laser. Instead of putting structured water inside a fullerene, you put deuterium in it. Now you have a bomb. And Carnegie Mellon's trigger mechanism was used. There is nothing in nature that will slag concrete or steel except a plasma. Chapter 7, Time Travel and the True Nature of Cavitation. And then Chapter 8, The Mind's Eye, where imagination is reality. If you can see it in your mind's eye, that, in your level of consciousness, is what makes it real. How did we put it in Selma Cartel? I wouldn't have seen it if I hadn't have believed it. Now, the other books that are part of this 5-book series, the ESP book is the work I did in 1971 at Mission Control with NASA and Ed Mitchell, and how to think with the gut. And it uses hypnosis, altered state. There is an altered state that is not right there. It's not over here, it's not up there, it's right there. And if you go to that place, your ability in guessing increases more than 400 times over where you are right now. And so this was, in 1972, the protocol I used to select SEAL Team 1. If you come from the gut, you do not, by definition, make mistakes. The power tools are the 8 protocols I developed for Navy SEALs, and there is a 5-book series on that that's for sale. It's $97. You can get it for $54 today. Okay? That's with that said. In agriculture, I have a 3-book set. Potential of Herbs is a Cash Crop I wrote for Chuck Walters, and then had my own column, and then How to Make a Living in the Woods, Native Plants of Commercial Importance, and then 2 volumes of 9 in ebook form on the Encyclopedia of Alternative Agriculture. And this is a 3-book series on set. And then I have another set. Oh, by the way, this is the original book that started me writing all these books when Nick Begich brought me up to Chickalone and got me back into writing. And so he does the foreword in all of these. And this is the one he published. This one's for $10 now, because this is the new one that's 18 and it's on sale. Okay, as a set. So it's the same book, it's just different format, layout, and you know, that kind of thing. I'm writing 4 new books today for this year. I have patrons. The new set in 2 areas. The first is the Diamond Body series, which is 3 books called The Diamond Body, which is the work I did when I moved the Menninger Foundation from Topeka, Kansas to the University of Washington and started doing video feedback systems. The graduate student, Robert Buchanan, was a graduate student at that time, worked under me, and we did a thing called cymatics for Buckminster Fuller. And that's where cymatics started, was my work in 1974. In 1979, I used Mora and Endomet German acupuncture equipment to bypass the use of drugs, where I talked directly to neurotransmitters using German acupuncture equipment, and was able to get the same high that you get from taking a drug. Now, it's important that you understand that all drugs are toxins. They have a chemistry that is very similar to, but different than the neurotransmitter. And what your body does when it sees a mushroom or marijuana or a lysergic acid diethylamide, LSD, coming into the body, it freaks out and overproduces, and jumpstarts your brain's own production of a similar but different neurotransmitter. The studies I did on telepathy was later called dimethyltryptamine, was 5-alpha is the one that you smoke in a little glass pipe to get high. But the one that's released in the brain that gives you the real high is N hyphen dimethyltryptamine. And that is unique and will talk to subtle bodies in what you will call the multiverse. And these are, that means, I watched a woman once rip a car door off to save her daughter in a flaming automobile. Now, the adrenaline that she released, the neurotransmitter, was not make her bone and muscle stronger than steel. How can she do that? You just presume, oh yeah, adrenaline did that. Yeah, well, how does that make her bone and muscle stronger? It is the altered state of consciousness that does the deed. And that's why in later generations, when we get rid of this broken medicine and dentistry and some of the other crap that we're using right now for our forms of healing, realize that there is a distinction between health and healing. Healing implies illness right out of the gate. And everybody is different, uniquely so. And when you talk about health, well, what's healthy for one person isn't for another. Your gut has different neurotransmitter, hierarchy of dialoguing, in the intricate gut of bacteria and so on. So does the brain. Everybody's neurotransmitters are different also. And that's what made us unique. And the fact is, when you had the choice between looking at the world as flat or round, if you used your brain as a tool, you had access to all of those doors. And that's what made you God's favored choice. Physics and religion, with Malcoma in the middle. Well, I'm not sure how to put it better other than to suggest that when you, and just in this few minutes that we've been talking, all of you have experienced probably more than 20 different altered states of consciousness. Not the extremes, but variations of getting it. When you start to become aware of it, you can use those as a tool to do something more. And that's why I'm saying today that when they rotated the Petri dish, because that's what we're in, we don't have free will. We have true will. Free will would imply full disclosure. It would seem that there's something beyond human playing with us when it went from Cro-Magnon to Neanderthal, and now going from human to GMO. And when I say that, even our children that are still human are damaged because they have not had their immune systems exposed like my mother exposed me to mumps and measles and chickenpox. They wore masks. Their immune systems have been compromised, and they're at risk. And when humans become extinct, and it's now the Petri dishes on GMO, there will be a very few of you, this is a metaphor now, very few of you that will be offered a breakaway to the star system of your choice. Key is, what artifact would you choose to remember Earth? That will get, as a metaphor, will determine whether or not you get to be part of the breakaway or you get recycled. It's all in metaphor, but it's limited to your ability to conceptualize. And personally, I feel like I'm David Copperfield. You know, I've got this empty bowl and I'm saying, Lord, I want something more than the physical plane, please. I'm still hungry. Because there's something more than consciousness. You are so hallucinating right now, according to my latest field theory, and this is just the first discovery. Remember, I've been doing the holographic concept for 50 years. So this is the first thing that came out of my multiverse, that I am you. Only I put a different topping on my breakfast cereal this morning. And when you look at your children and you're having dialogue with your daughter or child, realize you're talking to yourself. And the possibilities of what that might imply in terms of evolution of consciousness. I know you don't want me to do this, but now that I've done my opening salvo, what is it you'd like to know? What is it? What did you come here for? What is your intent, your purpose? What?
To give you energy. To give you energy.
To give me energy?
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
They need it.
I could use all you can give me, man. I'm living on Rogue River Highway right now, near Rogue River, in a trailer park full of a bunch of criminals. Let's see, we got Vagos here, and we got Hell's Angels there, and CID over here, and you know, I'm trying to figure out what am I doing here? It's creepy. It actually is very creepy where I'm living right now. Yes, ma'am.
I don't have an exactly clear answer, but I would say that in scanning, somebody tipped me off about this because I didn't actually know about it. And I went straight to the computer and looked up what was offered, and there was something very resonant about where your attention has gone that caused me to say, okay, this is somebody worth my listening to. And there's many who
Well,
I wouldn't.
you're welcome
So
to
I
dialogue
would
with me because I
just
do
say
better
that.
with exchange.
Yeah, I would just say that
Yeah.
there were numerous points of contact that you know I have my own take on, but
I can give you one.
there were
The
numerous.
close encounter I had for the government at Groom Lake, level 8, was krill. Was not part of my schedule. This was krill asking to meet me. And Dr. Carl Schleicher, aka the Smoking Man, asked me to do this. And my briefing was when I got down to level 8, there was this table that was from here to the door, full of top secret documents. I had vault permits, so I had top secret clearance with vault permits. And I just started reading documents, and the door opened. And there was a tall gray, feminine, felt feminine. It felt safe. And from that moment on, I had no more memory. They did on the debriefing, almost 2 weeks of debriefing. They had films of it. There was more than 20 minutes of us just sitting at each other, talk. Something was going on. When I came out of that, that's what led me to do my work with synthetic telepathy. I couldn't understand how this entity could be communicating to me inside my mind. I wanted to know how it worked. That's the work with Alan Frey and I at 0.3 to 3 gigahertz microwave band where you heterodyne audio, and you can hear it inside your head because it causes the temporal lobes to heat up and ring, and then you hear audio inside your head. It's called synthetic telepathy. They can fake it so you think you're talking to yourself, so you have to be on red alert there, distinguishing, you know, what's you and what's not you. That's why in magic you always draw a circle. That's Walt Disney. You know, everything inside is me and everything outside is not me. Right? That's how you do it. A switch going from the profane into the sacred. And it's important So you understand this. Now, in the last year, some of those doors began to open for me this last year, to answer your question, why in the direction. And I have a better understanding of what I am and why I'm doing what I'm doing. In regard to their language, they use emotions as a form of communication. But it's not our emotions. Our emotions are primitive anger, lust, rage, you know, the usual, you know, suspicious observers. And 20 minutes of dialogue could entail a lifetime of words. Very, very efficient, very direct, very pure. And so, and now some more doors are opening, and I'm not at liberty at this point to disclose those, other than I'm beginning to understand what my purpose is at this moment, is to leave some footprints for your great-grandchildren, because you and I aren't going to be able to save us from this mess. It'll be our children. And from that point of view, it's my humble opinion that our children are possibly our single most important natural resource. And our educational process right now, what are they doing to them? I mean, when I was in second grade in the Philippines, I learned Latin. Sum est est, sum est sunt. They don't even teach mechanical drawing or shop or home economics or anything like that in high school now. Of course, that's leaving no child behind. I'm not sure what they're doing. It's abominable, and I'm not sure homeschooling is the answer. Children are smarter than this. Why would I want to dumb down this person to become me? So, leaving you with that concept, take a look at your children more carefully. I'm basically a 4-year-old that never became 7. I'm still a 4-year-old trapped in a 79-year-old body. I like to mess around, you know, and be like a child. And I think humor is the only thing. Black lives don't matter. What matters is black humor. You can quote me. That for me is the only thing that has gotten me through this whole thing. I'm not prejudiced. Portland and what's going on in our politics, I don't think there's been a statesman since Harry Truman. You know, I'm reminded when I was 1960, happy birthday, Mr. President. And today, I didn't vote for Trump. I voted against Bush. And I can tell you, I love my country and I hate our government. I think the only thing our government has actually ever done right was the U.S. Postal Service. No, I mean, it's the way you communicate with each other, not texting and going down into thumb wrestling. And the more you communicate using systems like that, some of the older systems, I think you're going to be a lot healthier. That's my personal opinion and why I don't carry a cell phone. They're toxic. I can tell you about the LD50 ratios in the body, and you thought 4G is bad, 5G is worse, and now they're talking 6G. Is that all about money? And how did Gecko put it? You know, greed is good. I don't know. Yeah, well, you know, Wall Street, the movie Wall Street with Gecko. Greed is good. Yeah, well, maybe. I'm watching, I just finished a series on Netflix called Tweaky Blinders, and how the Irish Republic and fascism and socialism and the war in Ireland, and then later the New York and how the Irish took over New York, and you know, the more opium trade and all of that. It's interesting because it's all about money. And I mean, David Morgan's a personal friend of mine, and he can't even tell me what's going to happen regarding silver and Bitcoin and all the rest of it. What are we going to do? I always thought the small farm where you had producing 40% of your food at home, you will survive no matter what. It will that part is covered. But right now, how many people have their own garden? How many people are eating out of their garden? How many people are producing 40% of the food they're eating? Okay, I got invited by Michael Moore to go into Chattanooga, and in a series of 12 workshops over a month-and-a-half period, took the city of Chattanooga today. Their logo, their home logo is right here, right now. That's their logo, and they produce 40% of their food. Every single restaurant on the Chattanooga River has a greenhouse. Downtown Plaza area was all cleared out. That is now a 24/7 farmers market. Their stock exchange is the leftover products for cottage industries the following day. And I could, right here, I could look down and see Atlanta and the Martin Luther King Center and their raised garden beds, and they're still at 3%. Chattanooga is a model that we want to look toward. Vancouver, British Columbia is already doing that with all the Sikhs, you know, that moved from India, that moved in. They feed all of Seattle, where I grew up, is lost. Nobody lives in downtown Seattle anymore. It's all homeless. What's happening here? And we're on I-5 corridor. So I just want to let you know that all these hills that you see, all these hills, they're all interconnected. The primary entrances are out on East Evans Creek, mile 17. At mile 14 is where the queen for the Mexican mafia runs, and she has a big dressage out there. And if you thought the Mexican mafia was bad, check out what just happened in Cave Junction with the Russian mafia. I had to call my handler from Putin. I have handlers, by the way, from other countries, because I'm considered an asset. I don't work for anybody. I do what I sense is the right thing to do, not what I'm told to do. I was always a little brat kid. Well, that's a good thing and a bad thing. And that means I'm also being used as a pawn by several government agencies. I watch my computer and the algorithms coming across it. They're not natural. Everything is broken. And some of it is unnatural. And I'm just part of a group of people being used by warring factions within our government. And some of them don't even care about me anymore because I'm too old to do anything. And some of them keep me on a short leash. Feel free to buy books from my bookstore. That's my only source of income. And that's why I write like I do, why I'm driven to write. I'm driven to write because I love to write. And I'm capable. I studied with Ruth Slonim. That means when I graduated from Pullman, I also got 3 degrees, one in physics, mathematics, and English literature, Romantic periods. I got to see, yes?
I was just wondering, because I know a lot of people came to hear about your holographic universe. Could we get back to that?
The holographic universe is built with fractal mathematics. Now, the problem with what caused us to come to a holographic universe originally from quantum universe is that quantum mechanics uses space and time. And with that comes the uncertainty principle of, the more you know about one thing, the less you know about something else. In other words, quantum mechanics, by definition, with Heisenberg will not allow you to get there. You can get close. Like Simon says, you can go halfway to the door. You can get close, but by definition, you can't get there. So I came up with information and the way it goes into itself and out of itself, thinking like a resonant cavity oscillator going out, you know, like Mandelbrot or a Julia or a May generator. But then that's the problem with the holographic system, is it's also quantized. Going from an analog into a digital system, you lose something in the quality of what you're gaining. And that's because physics is limited, just like religion is. It's one half of the whole question, your two brains. And that's a cavitation process. Everybody know what a cavitation process is? That's where a drop of water falls into a pool of water. Poip. What happens is when it goes down into the water, it creates the future. And when it pops back out, it isn't no longer a drop of water. It's a bubble of structured water that has trapped the medium in which it's fallen. And inside that bubble is why Roger Penrose called it torus twistor space. It's a cavitation going into infinity down in. And we tried to quantize that with elementary particles. What's wrong with that idea? Analog into digital. So now we have bosons and fermions and smaller than electron, but mesons, which I was doing when I was 15. Now I'm 79. I can tell you that the holographic system is the way information folds into and out of itself. However, there is a theorem in information theory that states if you have enough information to ask a coherent question, you have enough information to answer it. The framing of the question is where the answer lies. Again, you can't get there from here. See where the problem? Okay. So now we're going to try to do everything. Multiverse. What is the multiverse? The multiverse is that place between when a proton, it's called the proton cloud. The proton cloud is when a proton is a particle and when it becomes a wave. And that's where the multiverse lies. And all the different you. How many decisions did you make just today? Each one leads to a totally different universe of possibilities. And one person can change the entire universe for all of you, like I'm doing right now. That is the multiverse of everywhere, every when, right now. And Doctor Strange at the end of the movie, where he's got the evil eye, you know, the bad Doctor Strange. Bad is not bad. Bad is opposite of good. But in Eastern tradition, rather than absolutes, which is like quantization, they have the yin within the yang. Preference. And what you're trying to do is unite the uniqueness of yourself into resonating with all the other yous so that you're walking as one person. Good luck.
For what purpose?
Now, the holographic system is about your mind's eye. Anything you can grok in your mind's eye is where imagination becomes reality. If you can see it in your mind's eye, it isn't about the physics or the religion that makes it true. It's your mind's eye that makes it true. And that's what the holographic system of reality is about. And what we're going to try to do is take one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind, and step to the next step outside the universe. The holographic system going into the multiverse, where you're now in dialogue, flipping the coin. I'm of two minds of this. That's Two-Face out of Batman. Flipping the coin. You have a choice. Do both. Because when you do both, now you have access to both doors. Oh, and there's a third one over here, and a fourth one, and things you haven't even considered yet that allow you to evolve to the next stage of awareness. And most people don't even get half of what I'm saying. Come on in. The water's fine. Oh, that's, come on, that was, come on into the river. She takes me down. Yeah. That was a very good movie. What is that called? That was, and, oh, brother, where art thou? Come on in, the water's fine. Yeah, yeah. Oh, brother, where art thou? See, what I'm trying to do is create pictures in your mind's eye, because that's where the richness of your life is going to excel beyond anything you can imagine. And each of us is different. And the holographic concept is about information. But information is not any more real than space or time. And that's me saying it as a lead physicist for so many years. I know you can't get there from here. You have a question, I can tell by the way you're looking. You're puzzled. Yeah, you look like you have a question. Yeah.
I have nothing but questions.
Well, I work with body language and I try to figure it all out. Good luck with that, huh?
Well, it's not about what you were talking about.
Yeah, okay. We can tangent, that's good.
My question is, I'm very pessimistic about humanity and the future.
You're pessimistic about humanity.
The future, and whether or not the Earth will survive.
So, rather than worry about me, you know, why don't you worry about all of the yous that are out there? And because I'm not even going to agree with most of yous. That doesn't mean I'm right. We're different. And what's right for me may not be for you. I've seen that in religion. You know, I mean, everyone has in my humble opinion, there are as many religions as there are human beings. And the reason you go to church is to reinforce a value you'd like to make stronger in yourself. You go for fellowship, like, I don't want to ever lie again, or I don't want to take drugs, or I want to believe in Jesus. And so you align yourself with a church with all these people seeking the same value. Fellowship. You go to church for fellowship, trying to reinforce a value you've aspired toward. And each of us aspire toward different values, or at different times, same values, but at different stages in our lives. You know, we're all different. We're unique. In fact, we're so unique that's why the Bibles, various Bibles, I taught metaphysics, by the way, at Harvard for 11 years, graduate level. I studied with Gershom Scholem. I had to learn Old Hebrew and Greek, and became a Hermetic Kabbalist as a physicist so that I could do my own translations and try to come up with my own ideas of what the Bible are. I can tell you that Jesus, to be king of Jerusalem, by canon law, had to have an heir since Abraham. He couldn't be the king of Jerusalem unless there was an heir. That's canon law. He had 2 children. And Mary Magdalene, when she fled to the south of France during the crucifixion, became the Cathars and the bloodlines of Christ. And now, Pope Innocent I, in the year 1000, declared war on the Cathars because the teachings of Christ and the Catholic religion went in opposite directions in the year 1000. That's what I used to teach at Harvard. And I can tell you that I don't know, because which Bibles are you quoting from? Yeah, exactly. And it goes downhill from there. But in the Nag Hammadi, and when you go into some of the old Dead Sea Scrolls, there are 2 Dead Sea Scrolls that nobody talks about, but 2 of them where one suggests, and they were written probably one was written 400 years and one was written 70 years after the crucifixion, suggests it was not Christ they put on the cross because Pontius Pilate couldn't deal with. They put their brother Simon on the cross. That's one Dead Sea Scroll. And the other one suggests that they fed Simon a special drink to simulate death so they could get him off the cross early. Now, is that real? I have no idea. You understand? But those were...
believe in any of it anyway, so it doesn't.
I mean, you know, and it goes on and on like that to the point where I know that I don't know, and especially in my specialized fields of physics, farming, feeding myself from natural sources, to trying to be self-contained. That's what workbook 2 is, how to live off the grid for 30 days. Good luck. You know, how much water do you need just to survive? Your kilo in body weight and going from kilo to grams, half. If you're 100 kilos, you need 50 grams of water every day. That's a little formula. It varies, you know, but that's, you know, rule of thumb. Yes?
So my question had to do actually with non-locality and the holographic universe. So you brought up this idea of resonance before, and if you go back and study like Purish in 73 to like 81, he's got some writings, and it's like,
Who?
is it Purish? Andrea
Puharich.
Puharich.
Yeah, he wrote Beyond Telepathy.
Yeah, exactly. He
Yeah.
also wrote Uri Geller's book. He also wrote
Geller, I busted Geller at SRI. That's why Puharich stopped. I caught him cheating.
Right.
But that was unfortunate because Geller actually could do those things.
Right.
And he was hanging out with a lot of wealthy people. Oh, bend my spoon, break my watch. And he started cheating because he couldn't do it on call.
Right.
Yeah.
So my question actually to you is more about like later on in his academic stuff, he was looking at more of a unified theory.
Oh, okay.
So the idea though is like if you could get the Earth and synchronize with the geomagnetic field, it's 7.81 to 7.8.
Yeah, Schumann's resonance. I was offered tenure in Perth to take over Hainsworth's work because of he had spent his whole life on Schumann's resonance, and in 1 week I finished his work.
So here's my question about it though.
Yes.
So my question to you, sir, is that in the world that we live in now, with different types of technology, that we have displays of light, right, that enable photic stimulation. We have audio waves, right, that can induce psychoacoustics. Are there certain rhythms or certain deliveries of these mechanics?
We're being bombarded on all bandwidths.
Which is Psychotronics, right?
Yep.
Which is part of where your paper on Holographic Universe was initially submitted in 1970.
That's correct.
As a part of the event in Prague, right?
The thing is that there are certain harmonics.
Right.
That's what you call resonance, where you have harmonics that cause something to ring, and it takes the energy from that sound and builds itself bigger and bigger, and all of a sudden,
Sympathetic resonance.
there you go.
So the question I have about all this, though, actually, is that in a world where you have some books that are around like using hypnosis or self-induced hypnosis or an altered state to
Yep.
amplify or to enhance extrasensory perception.
There are techniques and drugs and protocols
Right.
that will enhance hypnosis. I studied Gil Boyne School. I'm certified hypnotherapist with Gil Boyne forms. And you can drop someone down just like that. If
you're a high hypnotic susceptible.
Yeah, that's what Laser Main does, sleight of hand. Magic, as I practice it, is sleight of mind, where I use my mind as a tool to choose to see it a certain way.
And project it.
Now you're getting the big picture of what magic is.
Right, just a mental influence of a living subject, 1976 to 1983.
Yeah, I'm having trouble with the mask. I'm getting old and my hearing is.
You want to read my lips and then get all the nonverbals at the same time, right?
Right.
Okay, cool. So the real question that I have around this is, in the world that we live in, with the advancements we have in technology and data, right, about different people, and this idea that even you as an individual getting bombarded with algorithms, it's an evolution of psychotronics, right? That there's an opportunity for, in a positive evolution of man, or the human potential, like the Jim Shannon sense, right, of the First Earth Battalion,
Yeah.
right, Go Planet, by the way. That whole group or idea is how you could use psychotronics to enhance the evolutionary potential of man.
Yeah, psychotronics, by the way, does everybody know what a psychotronic form is? Psychotronics is the amplification using these tools that he's talking about. And that's why they call it psychotronics before it was parapsychology. It was psychotronic.
So my question, sir, is that do you think that right now that the public at large could be under attack, for example, from certain types of deployments that can induce
Absolutely.
influence
Yeah,
people,
there's no
things like
question.
active shooter
Yeah.
events and stuff
Yeah,
like that?
yeah.
So like John Mearson's ideas around neuroweapons.
Well,
Those types of things you think are
it's
real?
as insidious as buying a washing machine from China
Right.
and finding that there's a little circuit board in there that doesn't really belong there because it does something else.
Right. Or the Cat 5 breach on the
There you go.
backward.
And conspiracy moves onward, and proving things often is not that easy in gathering the data part. Now, Beal, Dr. Beal, B-E-A-L, out of Florida, has written extensively on the LD50 ratios on all these bandwidths on biological processes. And you want something to argue firmly regarding 5J and 4J, Beal will talk about which organs are affected with different things. If you carry your cell phone now in your pocket, your gonads are gone.
So you're saying the passive emissions that come off of devices?
There's with intent. That's why I suggested it was a petri dish.
Okay. All right. Thank you for answering my question.
Well, there's something else going on here. And I'm not going to have the answer. In fact, there's a high likelihood I'll probably never know. That's the bad news.
Do you think, though, that that technology can be used by the next generation, like people like me or my kids, in ways that we can create these positive evolutionary, or these evolution of knowledge so we can access those type of things?
I think that I think it's going to be extremely difficult, like it is for me.
Do you think that's because of noise to signal ratio, just with the...
Well, just the white noise and just the arbitrariness of automobiles and texting, where you're not even conscious of what's going on around you. And you're not typing, you're thumb wrestling. Now, this uses a different part of your brain.
Right.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. Humans are moving out of the petri dish, and now it's a GMO in the petri dish. And I can see it, absolutely. Can I do anything about it? Stay tuned. Film at 11, same bat channel, same bat time. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I don't know. What I am going to do is my part of leaving footprints that mean nothing to me, that will do nothing personal in helping me.
Right. But I can tell you your footprints have led people in the audience like me that studies this stuff to see things in a different light, which is positive.
Yeah, well, that's one of the reasons I meditate. All your saints in history have stressed the importance of training the mind. And, you know, I meditate 2 hours every day, or at least I try to. I call it sleep. Just kidding. No, but I'm a Satsangi. I was initiated, Sharon Singh. He looked me in the eye, and he said at the moment of my death, he personally would be there to take me across the abyss. Best hallucination I've ever been given. It took me further than anybody else has ever offered. I'm going to tell you something. There are other entities that are intercropped with human beings just like weeds.
Yeah.
It's not vampires and werewolves, but there are vampires and there are werewolves. Literally. I saw one of the studies I did down in Grants Pass when I was living up in Seattle and didn't know about Grants Pass was a shapeshifter that's been here 400 years. It's out of Wolf Creek. It's historical. And what I saw over where that car is parked, there was a dog looking at me. And then it charged me and ran straight at me, and just before it got to me, it turned into a wisp of smoke and went right between my legs. I witnessed that. Another one I did down here in this area was that vortex. I took a PBY with an interferometer and was measuring light bending at 20,000 feet. Now, what bends light at 20,000 feet? A mini black hole. And all of your different ley lines in history are like that. And we started finding that the Bermuda Triangle and other things had these kinds of phenomena, and that's why they laid the ley lines in the older technologies and the way they laid out their cities and their churches and their bars or whatever they did.
Washington, D.C., New York, and Philadelphia.
Well, Philly, definitely. New York. There it is. You got to think about New York. Another rubber tree, just bit the dust.
What frequency am I sharing with someone else, or what am I?
Well, that's what Theosophy called the chakras. There were different chakras or resonant, heart chakra, gonad.
Right. But as a singularity, if you can kind of get them all tuned together, I mean, they all contribute something different.
Well, then that's the world song. There you go. And it's at 7.83 Schumann's resonance. Did you know that Titan's Schumann's resonance is at 4?
Just like the same way that you look at the graduation of keys.
Yeah.
Right?
Does everybody know what Schumann's resonance is? Schumann's resonance is it's your middle theta bandwidth of brainwaves, middle theta, when you're in certain dream states. And it's the way the earth talks to you. And what Terence McKenna called zero-point energy is mycelium in the mycorrhiza, which is the nervous system, when the forest is communicating to itself in dialogue. There's a woman up at UBC in Canada that talks about how the mother tree in a forest communicates an impending forest fire, where the trees prepare themselves before the event, like a precursor wave going through a crystal, something outside of time.
So where can we, how could you coach us on that? Like, how does, do you, I mean, do you have
Okay.
experience with how
My meditation that I do, the one I do, mine starts at the third eye. And what happens is I Simran and Bhajan. Simran is where I do a bunch of God names. Not Noho Ringi Kyo, Noho Ringi Kyo. That's not the one I do, but you get the idea. And then I stop and I listen. And that's the voice of the silence. The Shabad, S-H-A-B-D, the lost chord. And that's the earth talking to you. And you can actually hear it because I hear music all the time now. And you hear it in the right ear usually, Pendechedes. I don't know what it all means. What I'm trying to do is find my own way through this, and each of us has a different path in that regard. And if we follow our true path, good luck finding that. Well, that's what you're here for, what incarnations are. You don't get it right, you get to come back and try it again. Did you know that at the moment of death, there's a 5-gram weight loss in the body, and it's not urine? What is that? I talk about it in chapter 7 in my book. It is microtubules on the outside of the body, what you call chi. okay, and it's filled with structured water. And 5 grams of structured water, metaphorically, is enough information for 100,000 lifetimes of memory.
And it goes into the
Isn't as a metaphor?
it's released.
But I don't want to come back. I'm not a saint. Yeah, what?
Everything is held. I mean, nothing disappears. That's what's so cool. It changes form. But absolutely everything is like held and remembered. And
There it is. You already have the answer. You just need to know how to hear it, metaphorically. And that's why I meditate. That's trying to train the mind. I've done that since 1979. I've been trying. I don't meditate like I used to. I do sometimes when I'm in bed. I'll try to go internal, and I'll try to leave my body, which is different than astral projection. It's soul travel, what Paul Twitchell and others have written about. The wormhole that I created in Yogatronics when I went to Mars is another form of travel. It's not astral projection, it's another one. And I've discovered another mode of transportation. It turns out there are apparently a bunch of them. And Chi, the first of many subtle bodies. I had a Sifu when I was a kid. When I went to Seattle, I studied under John Leong. And there were 4 of us. There was Bruce Lee, Skip Ellsworth, and Fred Williams and I. And my Sifu used to be able to go, BOOM! And could knock someone across the room without touching him. And I watched Cassius Clay once hit Sonny Liston. When he hit him like that, and Sonny Liston went up on his back and out flat on his back, out cold. And on closer inspection, Cassius Clay didn't touch him. How did that work? That is the altered states that I'm talking about, where the woman was able to rip the car door off to save her daughter. The holographic universe allows access to these altered states where you have tools in a toolbox and can do things.
same as what the Australians call dream time.
Yes. There's many different kinds of time. The arrow going in one direction. Theoretically, it's not possible to go back because you would change things. Oh, wait a minute. That's the multiverse, isn't it? Yeah, interesting. What I'm here tonight to do is to make you start thinking about these things as planting a seed so that you come up with your own ideas on how you do it for yourself.
Back a couple of years ago when we were having these tremendous winds coming in from, a space that we had no idea why these winds were coming. I lived up in the mountains, and the Green Springs Fire and Rescue came down the mountain to answer the calls for the fires that had gotten started and ignited in Talent and Phoenix. And they came across a man with a propane tank strapped to his car. And he said he heard voices that said he needed to set fire to the car and the propane tank. And that fire on the Green Spring on 66 would have taken out Ashland.
Wow.
What kind of phenomenon is that? That somebody's there with this propane tank?
Think of all the other people he influenced at that moment and what they came to realize is the truth over one person.
Only a handful, and I don't think it's a story that's commonly known, but I know the Green Springs Fire and Rescue, very small crew, and I say, you saved Ashland on September 7th, 2020, because they managed to...
In some universes, he actually blew it up.
All human dysfunction is the result of trauma.
And to realize you're experiencing one where he didn't. Why? That's a good question to ask. Why are you experiencing the one he didn't blow up?
Well, that's a great question.
Well, there might be something else there for you that's really important. Yes, ma'am.
Well, there's so many things and so many ideas and it's just
Good.
like huge. We're being ignited.
That's what I'm here to open minds.
So many streams. I wanted to catch you on something. I brought Luke Kaufman here to Ashland about 6 years ago.
7, I think it was. Yeah, I did 7 here.
Oh, okay. Did you? Yeah. So, what? How does he interplay with your work?
Who?
Luke Kaufman and the knot theory. You mentioned his name. Anyway.
Luke Hoffman.
Kaufman knot.
Oh,
The mathematician.
Kaufman that I'm following is in, where is he? He was here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I brought him.
I've never met him. I don't know him. You know him?
Yeah.
I would love to meet him.
Okay. We'll,
Make it so.
I make it so.
Because I'm going to use a virtual form of his system. Not his system that he uses now, but it's really useful. His math is, there are 10 strings and then a wormhole, or 11th string that interconnects the 10. And then what he did was tie knots.
Yes.
And that created a multiverse, a form. And the amount of knots that you can tie with 10 strings is just unfathomable. I mean, it's beyond. I can't imagine it yet. How can I do it if I can't imagine it? But though I probably could, but I have 2 minds. Yeah, flip a coin.
He's either in Russia or Chicago right now.
Yeah.
But you also mentioned something about the DNA structure early on.
Yes.
And could you elaborate on that, please?
Well, the DNA is a double helix. And I have actually got a picture in my, is it in my, oh, it's one of my PowerPoints where I showed the sun actually doing a discharge of a perfect DNA. Wow. Yeah. Now, what does that signify? What do you think that means?
The scaling of the holographic universe.
As above, so below. There's something else going on here that I haven't grasped yet. You know, that's what I do. I try to, well, if I can get it, then I can give it to you, and then you can take it and make something even more from it. That's why I try to do what I do. I'm a lead scout. Well, there's cow pies over there. You don't want to go over there, you know. Oh, wait, that's where all the mushrooms grow. Wait a minute, we want to. I'm of 2 minds, Flip. Whoops, there goes another rubber tree. Sorry. Yes, ma'am.
First of all, thank you for laughing. Like, there's some stuff I don't get here, but the laughter just keeps me really open and connected.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I do mind-body pain control, and so I'm 73, you know, body maintenance. I had 2 molars extracted and bone grafting done. I do it without any drugs. I had a cesarean section. I asked for no drugs like 41 years ago. So what happens for me is that 2 weeks ago, on a Tuesday morning, the extraction and bone graft happened. I was high. I don't do drugs or drink, but I was on a natural high until Saturday, and then I went like, it was like really high. Like I was so happy and excited, you know, I was bleeding and I was happy and excited. So then it shifted down for 3 more days to like not quite as high. I was still happy and excited, but not as much as I was in the beginning. Is that endorphins or what is
It's your body trying to flush certain neurotransmitters because as high as you go, you have to come down.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna have to be depressed as much. And so that's what one of the purposes of meditation is,
Yeah, I didn't.
you try to find that center where you're not.
I didn't get depressed.
Yeah.
I do a lot. I do qigong.
You want to hear a bad story? Harvard chose me and 9 others in 1964 when it was still legal to give me LSD.
That's why you like.
1964, I was doing my undergraduate work at Pullman. I never gotten drunk, never heard of. I'd heard of pot, but you know, didn't do anything. And here I am up at Deception Pass with Timothy Leary after he talked to my mother and then my professor, doing Bill Osley's LSD 32 or something like that. And I'm looking up at Deception Pass at Hurricane Ridge, 2,000 feet down, and the colors are boiling back. And Leary leaned over and he said, "Wouldn't it be neat to jump?" Now, why did you all laugh?
Because we didn't jump, or maybe you did jump. Yeah.
What happened, yes, that's Aldous Huxley and the Doors of Perception, and why all my studies at that moment on have been on inner space, and instead of being an astrophysicist, I'm a solid state physicist. Inner space is even more vast than outer space. You have no idea what happened to me at that moment when he said that. It changed everything in my life. That's the memory of that moment part that becomes a pivot point. And you have them. And they're tools for choosing which alternate universes you want to work with. Where can I go from here? What else would you like to know? I can't believe I started smoking pot in 1968 when I graduated from Boeing. I graduated from graduate school at Delaware and went to work at Boeing, and my first job was Lunar Base Alpha 1 under Art Pilgrim. And I was the physicist in charge of light. And one of the plants we grew was indica. Do we have the light right on this one? 1968. Now I don't smoke pot anymore. Why? I don't need to. I can generate that same high. Man, you have no idea. It's easy. And it's not the marijuana. It's your own neurotransmitters that are the altered states. Not the drug. Not the drug. Not the drug.
So what is autism?
Autism is a different wiring of the brain that is like Rain Man. It's okay? I just did that for you to show you I can do that. You can do all of that. It's an arbitrary thing that happens to some individuals where they go in this direction rather than that in terms of the wiring of preferred pathways in the brain. Or you can rewire your brain. Who do you want to become? You have these as choice. And each of us is unique because of the foods we eat. Our gut is different. Our neurotransmitters are different. The hierarchy of them, which means you can do things I can't. I'm limited by my own scope of imagination. I'm gifted with eidetic memory. That was my gift. Eidetic means I'm visual. It's different than photographic. And I have eidetic memory. And it's a curse and a gift both, because I'm very circular. I'm probably irritating the heck out of you because I'm all over the place rather than being which is linear. But then that's why my handler is so detailed that Jack Spratt could eat no fat, but his wife could eat no lean. But together, they lick that platter clean. That's why you have male and female, and sometimes you experience an inner, and sometimes you have a physical exterior reflection as a metaphor. And that part, each of us is, again, unique in the way we approach that problem or situation or path. Yes, sir. Good, thank you. You have a nice face, by the way. Yeah.
So I guess my question kind of spins off of that as an idea of like mental imagery. And, you know, the only thing that makes us all common is the fact that we're different, right? So, one, I get that. But then two, I think like if you think like from a Vygotskian discursive approach to the way that you see images versus the way that I could see the same image, our choice in language based upon or predicated upon our subjective history.
Poetry, by
right,
poetry.
poesis, right?
Yeah.
But that also plays kind of, I guess my question that has to do around that is the way that, do you believe, like when we look at psychoenergetics, for example, or we look at psychometry, like the idea of an object that we put our energy into, or in remote viewing, we draw an ideogram where we actually put energy into a symbol, right?
What I've discovered, I already know what your question is. What I've discovered is different brain structures have different resonances. And dolphin and orca and pilot whale and manatee is cetacean have different sacred geometry than man does.
Which is why they can project a cymatic.
That's exactly, and when you find crabgrass having dimethyltryptamine in it, that's no longer physical chemistry, that's a delivery system from God.
So here's what part of my real question was. So the delivery in this act that we are having, this moment of poetic delivery that you have, some people have asked questions about like language. I'm just curious if there's a level of intention behind the energy and how you say or deliver certain things that are designed for almost neurolinguistic programming. They're designed or open to the interpretation to activate the audience in their own
And
way.
there's timing on that. There's timing, you know, like celestial bodies. In fact, that's going to be a new physics that comes up. It'll be called, what is it? Astro. It's what did I call it? It's the new thing on space will be cosmobiology. Lunar sex cycle of the female. When she's born, an engram is set into the DNA on when she ovulates. And if she moves to a different part of the Earth, because of the moon being so close to the Earth, that engram changes and her ovulation cycle changes, and now we have a form of birth control. And that's what came out of Yugoslavia back in the early 70s with Ostrander and Schroeder. And the study they gave me was the planet Uranus in the same venue dealing with Carrington-like events.
Are those always negative?
What's that?
Carrington events are always negative, or?
No, Carrington don't have to be negative. There are changes. What's going to happen, literally, is the plate's going to shift and it's going to go chunk, just like that. It's not going to do a big change, just going to slight change. But it's,
One plate, or?
well, one plate will affect the other plates, of course. So yes, there will be geographical changes, and because man lives on shorelines mostly, there will be extinction event, like that's what they call Carrington, when the event that occurs is verging on extinction, like that's what a Carrington event meant. That's the definition of a Carrington-like event, where it's near extinction. Man will survive, but not human. Now we're slated with GMO. Well, as the Petri dish evolves. What?
I said our collective consciousness.
Yes, there is a collective consciousness. That's Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud. But within that, there are different camps or resonances, okay? And this group does that, and that group does this, and there's different kinds. And I don't know how many kinds there are, unless you want to go to Theosophy, in which case there's 7, or there's 12, or, you know, different numbers.
sudden that just like, you couldn't predict then what was going to happen if that influence is true, and you have sets of people who are, concentrating on.
That means the group mind could change things. That's right. Yeah. Kumbaya. There you go. There you go. Kumbaya. And yes, we could all sit here and try to change Ashland. Good luck. Yes, ma'am, first.
But within the concept of the multiverse, there's many more possibilities than just every single one does not have Ashland or any.
That's like in the Temple of Doom in the beginning of the movie when she spins out on stage and sings, anything goes.
There's many other examples of things, right?
Yeah. I can't tell you how it's going to play.
But what I'm saying is that what we can say is that there's more than one possibility.
There's many of them, and they're all going to happen. That's the other part of it. They're all going to happen. Because it was Joseph Campbell when he said, when you see the kingdom of the Father on earth, the apocalypse has already occurred. It is perpetual in its potential. That's Joseph Campbell and the concepts of archetype. I know. Yes.
I just wanted to thank you for all this, but
Yeah, I'm watching her to be careful here.
I'm just going to quickly say that we are not separate from the sun. We are not separate from the sun.
No.
We are in the sun.
Yes, well,
That's why it's in control of everything.
there's a fluid around the Earth, there's a fluid around the sun, and there's a fluid around the solar system, the Oort cloud, and all the rest of it. There's these protective shells, and I'm not sure that they're natural. And magic is physics, advanced physics, that's unknown science, undiscovered science. But science can't get there from here. It's a combination of science and the two brains. And the cavitation of that drop hitting a pool of water, like your thought hitting the pool of thought, whoop, comes back up as a bubble. And that's the holographic universe. And all the different bubbles, that's the multiverse. And the multiverse is going to start to become a very popular concept in the next 20 years. It's the kids younger than you are going to grab onto that, because I've seen how they did the holographic concept when I proposed it in 1972. I didn't get to go to Stockholm because Gabor went to Stockholm 1 month earlier. I presented mine in Prague. And 73, the embryonic holography, where I did an application, a physical application, embryonic holography, was classified top secret 1 week after I delivered it. I delivered 2 papers at Claremont, and the one was the first public demonstration of an AI. I did not bring that book. That's called Project Paraphile. And that was in 1974 that I did that. And they came in, placed me under short arrest, went through my files, and everything on embryonic holography was classified top secret until '93 when it was released. And then 2 Russian scientists quoted from that, Garyaev and Popov. Okay, and they, on the biohologram, that's what I wrote, the biohologram. And the Russians that I'm working with now were students under Garyaev, and they made that major breakthrough on the proton cloud. And all the possibilities of how the DNA is a resonant cavity oscillator, and they quote from my 1973 paper, so they came up to interview Max and Ivan. And when they did, they realized they did not have the mathematics. They were biologists. And I'm a polymath. Oh, well, that would be blah, 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 blah. And so now we're co-authoring. And if you come Thursday morning, you can meet Ivan and Max, because the 3 of us, knock on wood, may get to go to Stockholm. If we do, My bucket list includes opening for Saturday Night Live. That's my bucket list. And guess what? Jon Stewart has invited me to do TV with him. He's got a news, yeah, well, he's a fan. And he heard of my bucket list. I could just see me with Alfred E. Newman. What? Me worry? No, we got to have fun. If you're not having fun, what is the sense of this thing? I mean, you know, you can be very serious, but get a grip. Get a grip. None of this is real, and I know it. And there it is, DNA, right there. Yep, there it is. Who's the author on that? I'll bet I...
James Watson.
Yeah.
With
Crick. Yeah, Crick and Watson. Yeah, they were the first to come up with the concept of the DNA. I'm suggesting that it is a resonant cavity oscillator dialoguing right up through the line, projecting into multiverse. And that's how I'm going to try to do the math. More questions?
What about this concept of 24-strand DNA reduced down to 2 strands?
The other things besides man that intercrop, like weeds.
I always kind of likened it like unplugging the switchboard. You know, like the old-fashioned switchboard, the cords. I'm thinking 22 of those.
Yeah, I haven't got a wrap on that one yet, so stay tuned. That'll be next week. When I'm going to be doing. I do a lot of druggies like to hear what I have to say. Well, I don't encourage drugs. I'm not advocating them at all. Yes.
Okay. So would you speak about how the hologram means we are one, and yet we exist in all these other parts of the hologram, and this is just one expression that's very small in the mix of all that?
I'm not sure I can do that. I don't know how to do that. I know what you want me to do, and I'm not sure how to do that yet. That's why I'm doing my math on that, because I don't think it's going to be a hologram. I think something else is going on. And I'm not certain it's holographic. Holographic means that it projects up in stages in resonance.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're different. You know, like when you do Fibonacci and, you know, you have that kind of a resonance from the way it generates outward on itself. There are many forms like that in nature, and it has its own unique ones, okay, which has to do with the DNA. And your DNA that you're talking about is a different resonance, which is maybe what an alien might be, or something else. Like, how did the dolphin put it in Hitchhiker's Guide? Thanks for all the fish.
So long and thanks for all the
Well, I love that, you know, the Hitchhiker's Guide, where you're thumbing your way out of this place, you know, trying to catch a ride to something better.
Don't forget the bar top.
Yeah.
I actually have a theory about your question. Can I answer?
Yeah, please. Yes, I might learn something.
This is a holographic universe because we believe we're separate. In reality, we're all the same. So the matrix of suffering is the belief in our duality. So we come here to suffer.
Well, purgatory.
In a sense.
Yeah.
I'm me and you're you, and we're different. And as soon as we get into judgment, that's the matrix of duality. She's like this, and she's like that, and then we go into suffering. So.
Or it could be because we came to celebrate.
Yes, and that's my point, is that the resolution is unity consciousness.
That's another point that you made that's valid, that we see ourselves as uniquely different.
Which we are.
And we're not. Yes. Yes. In comparison to cetacean. Do you know, I could say to you, How many ants are on your property? And who's terraforming it more? Well, you choose to look at things a certain way, and you miss the big picture. There are 4 cetacean on this planet that, in my humble opinion, have higher technologies than man. Orca has access to 9/10 of the biosphere, where man has access to only 1/10 of the biosphere. Who's superior?
And it's all just happening because we're in this lower dimension. It requires a neutron and a proton for us to manifest. Those are the dynamics of opposites. So no matter what we do, we're going to keep being like, oh, am I me? Am I you? It's just going to happen throughout this lifetime. So unity consciousness kind of gives us a cohesive...
Well, I remember it hurt so good.